Player ratings then. Everton crash out of the Carabao Cup at the third round stage against QPR on penalties. It was a penalty shootout that decided the game in the end, but let's be honest, Everton were terrible from the first whistle to the last. So yes, it would have been great to have won on penalties, but it's not like we could sit here and say we honestly deserved it. We were really poor tonight. Let's get straight into it then. Asmir Begovic, I've given him a 5.5 today. Obviously, you look at the two goals. Could he have done better for the first goal? I think throwing himself at the initial cross mightn't have been the best decision. Now, some people would argue with that. Some people would say that, he just wanted to get something on it and try and clear the ball. And that's fair enough. I don't particularly blame him for the rebound, because that's exactly what it was. It was a rebound and the defence should have been there to help him out. And in reality, they weren't. But could he have done better and not sort of threw himself out in a diving motion and maybe come out and tried to catch it or punch it away? I don't know. And then the penalty shootout, again, it's really difficult to sit here and critique a goalkeeper on a penalty shootout, because of course, penalties, go one way or the other, and it's never really the fault of a goalkeeper if he doesn't save a penalty. But I just think there was a couple of pens there that he should have been doing better with it. Again, maybe it's picky, maybe it's being a little bit too sort of pedantic, but I just think there was a couple that he got his hand to, or, he made contact with, and you just would have expected him to tip them out or get a harder sort of hand on them. There was a couple that QPR were very lucky with there. And again, look, that might be a bit picky, and again, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination blaming Asmir Begovic for us losing that penalty shootout, because I understand that it's a 50-50 with penalties, but I just think there maybe were a couple of penalties that he could have done better with. But again, not the greatest performance. Done all right, made a couple of saves, but I just think he could have been more assured. And then obviously with the header, again, awful defending again, but could he maybe have covered that post a little bit more? I don't know. But anyway, he's getting a 5.5. Luca Dean is getting a 7 today. I thought he was much more improved than what he was against Aston Villa. Obviously, had a bit of a howler against Aston Villa, making a couple of mistakes that led to goals. One obviously being an own goal. Got a goal tonight. We said in the preview that a goal for Luca Dean tonight could do him the world of confidence. And he did get that goal. First Everton goal in 2 years, I believe. Great ball over by Andros Townsend and a really neat finish on the left-hand side by Luca Dean. And I actually think overall today he done all right. There was a couple of times when QPR attacked down that left-hand side and he dealt with it well. There weren't many times they attacked down that left-hand side because they heavily exposed John Joe Kenny down the right. But the odd time that they did try and get down that left-hand side, I think Luca Dean worked quite well with Anthony Gordon and actually dealt with their attack on a number of occasions. Obviously, he went off apparently with an injury. Hopefully that's nothing serious, because we really don't need Luca Dean out injured. That would be an absolute catastrophe at this stage in the season, given the injuries we've already got to the squad. So hopefully there's nothing in that slight knock to his ankle that we were made to believe was the reason as to why he went off. But I thought he was much more improved today than what he was in his last game. And like I said, he got that goal, which is great to see. So Luca Dean is getting a 7. Mason Holgate, I've given Mason a 5 today. Not the greatest performance. I think it's clear that him and Ben Godfrey aren't the greatest centre-back partnership. Just don't think there's enough experience there. Just don't think there's enough leadership there. Just like I said, it's the experience for me. 2 very young centre-halves commanding and trying to sort of run the line for Everton. I just don't think it works. I think, Mason can put in some real solid performances, but more often than not, he needs Yerry Mina next to him. Very similar to Michael Keane and very similar to Ben Godfrey, really. They all seem to perform a lot better when Yerry Mina is next to, either of them, whereas when the 3 of them are in a pairing, whichever that pairing might be, there's always mistakes made. And I think Mason did make a couple of mistakes today. Scored a good penalty in the penalty shootout, and it wasn't his worst game. I just think he could have been more assured on a couple of occasions, trying to play the ball out when he's clearly not a ball playing centre half. So yeah, Mason's getting a 5. Ben Godfrey's getting a 4. Again, very similar to Mason Holgate, but I do think Ben is at fault for the second goal. Far too easy for Charlie Austin to rise above him. First of all, that cross should never be coming in the box. When we will learn that we are absolutely dreadful at defending balls into the box, the moment we learn that, the moment we actually might start to be a little bit better at footy. But again, Charlie Austin just finds it far too easy to rise above Ben Godfrey and get the touch on it, and obviously it goes past Asmir Begovic, and that's something that Ben needs to work on. Listen, I know he's not 100% fit and he's played a lot of football recently since returning to the first team. Obviously, he went out at left back today when Luca Dean went off as well, which wasn't ideal. But again, I just don't think it was his greatest performance today. So Ben's getting a 4. John Joe Kenny's getting a 3 on that right-hand side. I don't want to particularly pick out John Joe Kenny because there was a couple of poor performances today and a couple of players that, considering this was their opportunity to show the manager that they should be more than good enough to be challenging for a place in the Premier League, Everton side, they massively let down today. But look, I don't think that's the case, particularly with John Joe. I just, again, you know, God love him, I just don't think he's good enough. I just really don't think he's good enough. He was exposed heavily down that right-hand side in the first half. Willock was just playing round him with ease, never stopped the cross, never stopped the ball into the box. I don't know how many times QPR found it easy to just cross the ball into the box, into our dangerous area, time in, time out. And like I said, considering, you know, Everton defenders should know that is our kryptonite. Balls into the box is our biggest issue. You would think that the fullbacks would do everything in their power to stop those balls coming into the box, and I just think John Joe Kenny allowed it to happen far too many times today. You know, again, it's this age-old question as to whether John Joe Kenny is good enough to play for Everton, but just hasn't had the opportunity to show it. I don't subscribe to that. I just don't think he's good enough. I just personally don't think he's good enough. It might be harsh, and I get you might say, oh, it's only one game. Cammy might just have a poor game, but I just think he showed today that positionally he's a long, long way away from being a Premier League right back, certainly a Premier League right back for Everton. And he was exposed heavily by a Championship, you know, left winger, you know, okay, a good left winger, and certainly one that I think a lot of people will watch out for this season. But it was just far too easy for QPR in that first half. I think John Joe Kenny was in a whirlwind. So John Joe Kenny is getting a 3. Tom Davies in the midfield, he's getting a 3.5 today. Really disappointed with Tom. And not just for the penalty. Again, this isn't even really taking the penalty into consideration. Obviously, he missed the final Everton penalty, which led to QPR, you know, scoring their final penalty and winning the game. It wasn't even that. I just think he was completely overrun in the midfield. Again, for a player that we sort of liken and hope as a replacement for Alan, or somebody that can come in and maybe give Alan a little bit of a rest at times. That's what I was looking for from Tom today. I was looking for a performance where you watch him and you go, Rafa Benitez will be looking at him thinking, you know, in December when we play, you know, one game every 5 minutes and we've got about 43 billion games in the space of a week, I'll be able to put Tom in and take Alan out, and it'll be sort of a like-for-like replacement, very similar players. And obviously we saw that at times last season. We saw it in the Merseyside derby at Anfield. Tom Davies was absolutely fantastic. He was fantastic on a number of occasions, you know, towards the back end of last season. And I was hoping today we'd see a Tom Davies performance where he was dominating in the midfield. He was battling, he was winning every ball, he was fighting for it, he wasn't getting pushed off the ball. Every pass he made was a good one, every tackle he made was a good one. And yes, he wasn't given much help by the referee whatsoever. I thought Kevin Friend was an absolute disgrace today, disgraced the referee, and I thought he was awful. But I just don't think we saw that from Tom today. I just don't think we saw that. So, unfortunately, because I was expecting more, but Tom, not the greatest performance, so Tom gets a 3.5. Andre Gomez next to him, he gets a 4, not much better. Thought he was a bit more assured, thought he was a bit more comfortable on the ball, and played a few, you know, extra decent passes, I suppose. Had a couple of shots, Andre Gomez, but as my dad said throughout the game, you know, our midfielders couldn't hit a barn with a hurricane. You know, every shot he hit went wide. Yes, they got closer to the goal, but he'd have probably taken another 10 shots to even hit the post. And yeah, again, Andre Gomez said it in the instant match reaction. You think players like Andre Gomez would be going out there today thinking, do you know what? I'm going to show the manager that I'm not just a player that can play in the cup. I'm not just a player that can go out there and play against Championship sides. I should be in consideration to play on Saturday against Norwich. I should be in consideration to play in the Premier League. And he didn't. He didn't show anything today. He looked all right in the first few weeks of the season, Andre Gomez, but didn't really show anything today, did he? So he gets a 4. Alex Iwobi getting a 5. Pretty much copy and paste what I've just said about Andre Gomez and Tom Davies. You would have hoped that this would again have been a game that Alex Iwobi would have taken by the scruff of the neck, and his skill and his ability and his dribbling ability would have just been too much for QPR to handle, but it wasn't. It really, really wasn't. Got through a couple of times with some nice passages of play, and you know, was playing the ball down the flanks on a couple of occasions as well, and moving us into some good areas, but overall nothing really come of it. They didn't ever really done anything going forward. you know, and again for large parts of the game was quite absent. So another disappointing performance, because you would have expected Alex Iwobi to go out there and really show, you know, give Rafa Benitez a case to start him at the weekend, certainly considering, you know, the injuries that we've got. We know we'll be without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we know we'll be without Richarlison, we know we'll be without James Rodriguez at the weekend, or at least we assume. So you would have thought Alex Iwobi would have gone out and thought, you know what, I'm going to give the manager something seriously to think about. Maybe he doesn't need to, maybe he'll be in the starting 11 anyway, because of the mere fact that we've got nobody else. But wasn't massively impressed with Alex today, so he is getting a 5. Andros Townsend's getting a 7.5 today, my man of the match. Obviously got the assist for the Luka Dean's goal. Really nice chip ball over the top into Luka Dean's path, and then scored the second himself. Wasn't massively involved in other areas on the pitch, defended well, and was having to get, certainly in that first half, I thought, again, he was having to get back and do a lot of defensive work, because he was having to cover John Joe Kenny, which isn't really what you want to see from your attacking right winger. But anyway, he did it, he got back, he defended well, he covered his teammates when he needed to. And ultimately, when you score 2 goals and you know, one of your players scores one and makes one, you can't really say too much about him. Obviously, he stepped up in the penalty shootout as well and buried his penalty. So, again, not a bad game by Andros Townsend by any stretch of the imagination. I thought he'd done okay. Could he have done a bit better? Maybe. But I thought he'd done all right today. So he is getting a 7.5. My man of the match, like I said, really nice goal. Obviously, it was a bit scrappy, but he got on the end of it and he made sure it went into the back of the net. And a really nice assist for Luka Dean's goal as well. Maybe could have had another when he had the shot, didn't he? And the keeper made the save. But I thought he'd done okay, so he is getting a 7.5. Anthony Gordon gets a 7 today. I was actually really impressed with Anthony Gordon, to be honest with you. I thought he worked really hard. I thought he battled. Thought he won the ball back on a number of occasions. I thought he was fluid going forward, creating chances. Had a shot early in the first half, which was unlucky as well. Goalkeeper made a good save. And, you know, we had a couple of times when he fizzed balls across the box and they were defended and they were put out for a corner. There was a couple of times when I think he was looking for Solomon Rondon, and Solomon Rondon just couldn't find the run, or just couldn't get on the end of it, or didn't have enough pace, or didn't have enough energy, whatever it was. But I thought Anthony Gordon looked bright today. I thought not only did he show that quality up front in terms of, you know, his ability as a forward player, but I actually thought he battled defensively as well. I thought he worked hard, he threw a couple of challenges in, he won the ball back, and I thought he battled really well. So Anthony Gordon, I was impressed by him today, and he gets a 7 for me. And then finally in the starting 11, Solomon Rondon. I'm giving Solomon Rondon a 4 today. Look, just absent, weren't he, really? That was the one word I'd use to describe Solomon Rondon's performance, absent. Other than a header from a cross that he deflected onto a defender's head and ended up going out for the corner, I can't really recall what else he did of any real note. And look, Solomon Rondon, before joining Everton, hasn't played a minute of football for something like 4 months, I think. So he's very clearly not fit. I don't understand why we didn't bring him in the first week of pre-season, when we knew A, he was coming in on a free or for a very minimal fee, and B, he desperately wanted to come. I don't know, and C, there was never going to be any issue in regards to him coming, so I don't know why we waited until deadline day to bring him in. I don't know why we didn't bring him in the opening 2 weeks of pre-season, so we could at least go to Florida and have that 3, 4, 5 week period to get his fitness up, because now he's having to play catch up. And, you know, you typically in these types of situations with these types of signings, Solomon Rondon would be playing catch up, but he'd be playing catch up by coming on in the last 15-20 minutes of a game and having a little bit of game time here, a little bit of game time here, because we'd have Dominic Calvert-Lewin and we'd have Richarlison, or we'd have Moise Keane, and we'd have somebody else. Unfortunately for Solomon Rondon, he's been struck with the Everton look straight away in his Everton career, and he hasn't got that period to settle in. He hasn't got that ability to, you know, pick his match fitness up with the 20 minutes here and a half an hour there. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's injured, Richarlison's injured, Moise Keane's left the club now, and we've got no other option, so he's having to start games of football. And he very clearly isn't ready to start games of football. He very clearly isn't fit to start games of football, but he's having to start games of football. So, again, not the greatest performance today, wasn't massively involved. Hopefully the game time will get his fitness up, and again, I'm sure he'll start on Saturday against Norwich, and hopefully he can get his first Everton goal in that game, because that is now a massive game for Everton. Onto the substitutes bench then. Damari Gray, giving him a 6. Again, I said it in the intermatch reaction, I didn't want Demarai Gray to come on. I wasn't happy when he come on. I understood why he come on, because I think Rafa Benitez was trying to win the game in normal time. But nevertheless, he come on and he done all right. Won the ball back a couple of times, made a couple of decent runs, a couple of decent passes. Didn't really do an awful lot. And like I said, not ideal that he's come on whatsoever, but he done all right. So he is getting a 6. Abdoulaye Doucouré is getting a 6.5. Very, very similar to Demarai Gray. Didn't want him to come on. I think the whole point of having the likes of Doucouré and Demarai Gray on the bench is to not have to call on them, is to not have to bring them on, for them to be that insurance policy, for lack of a better phrase. Unfortunately for Everton and players like Demarai Gray and Abdoulaye Doucouré, we almost certainly, every single time we play, have to look at our insurance policy. Bloody hell. We must have, our no claims must be through the bloody roof, because every time we play a cup game, we have to look at our insurance policies, the players on the bench, and bring them on. I thought Doucouré done all right when he come on. He battled, he was physical. He worked hard, he put himself about, he put a couple of really good blocks in defensively as well to stop QPR from scoring. And yeah, he done all right, so he's getting a 6.5. And then Michael Keane is getting a 6 as well. Again, come on the pitch, wasn't on for very long, should have scored within a minute of being on the pitch from the corner. Should have done so much better with the ball into the box. You know, he got his head on the end of it, free header, and he headed it wide. But other than that, again, he didn't really have an awful lot to do. I think he took a penalty, scored a penalty as well. So fair play to all three substitutes who come on and took penalties, didn't he, and scored as well. But yeah, overall 6 for Michael Keane, come on and done a decent job. And there you go. That is the player ratings. Everton crash out of the Carabao Cup at the 3rd round stage with a penalty shootout defeat at QPR. But overall, like I said, it wasn't the penalties that lost us the game. Well, it was the penalties, but we were awful for the rest of the game. We were absolutely abysmal in the first half. We were embarrassed. The second half, we were slightly better, but still didn't do anything to deserve to win the game, or to deserve to be sat here upset that we haven't won the game. We go out on penalties. Some people would say, look, it's a positive because we've now not got that competition to think about. We can now put that away and move on and actually look forward to a little bit of rest in certain periods of the season when we'd have to be playing cup games. But for me, I just think for a club like Everton, you know, not winning a trophy in over 25 years, whatever it is, I've never seen Everton win a trophy in my lifetime. And I understand that Man City win this trophy every year and they'll probably win it this year. And I understand that even if we got through and we played Man City's kids in the next round, we'd get trampled by probably 70% of the teams left in the tournament. I understand all of that. And I get people saying, well, it doesn't matter because if we were to get through and only get City in the quarter-final like last year, we'll get beaten anyway. But that's not the mentality to have. The mentality to have is you take every game as it is, and a cup competition is one game at a time. And we all know in football, any team can beat any team if it's won in a one-off game. And for a club like Everton, like I said, not winning a trophy for so long, we should be going into every season with winning a trophy as our main priority. And you only get 3 chances, 2 for Everton because the Premier League's out the equation every year. The FA Cup, very difficult to win. The Carabao Cup, okay, still very difficult, but the easiest of the 3. And, you know, we're out at the 3rd round stage. So, look, what can we do? There you go. That is the play ratings. If you haven't checked out the instant match reaction, please do so. If you've enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back with the live game review to this one tomorrow. So look out for that one if you want to join us and chat a little bit more about the game. And yeah, leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.